and Sabiiti, 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum from Radio 1. My name is Edmond from Spectrum tonight. The State House and the office of the President claimed to for us. Expressed concern that the office of the President as well as State House could be fueling corruption and the misuse of public funds based on reports that have been emerging. The two offices have been mentioned in land allocations, diversion of funds, compensations and forgeries in reports by the Auditor General. Yesterday, President Museveni met with the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, which is investigating circumstances under which the government paid out 270 billion shillings to several companies. The Auditor General, who queried this amount, indicated that an interministerial committee which looked at the matter recommended a lower figure, but some variations were made after several petitions to the President. Reports of theft and forgery at State House have also been emerging. Newspapers said some 2 billion shillings was stolen by the Presidential Guard Brigade. Reports have also emerged about how the signature of the President has been forged and how cunning and unscrupulous people have stolen public funds purporting to be working for the President or on his orders. In the past, the Public Accounts Committee has expressed concern over the misuse of public funds budgeted for programs being managed in the State House, including with the State House-backed Poverty Alleviation Program. Today, the caliber of staff at State House came under scrutiny when it emerged that there's a possibility that some people are holding positions with no experience. It emerged that the President appointed one Edward Muhoozi, who is now 27 years old, as his assistant on economic affairs. It was established that he authored a letter that sanctioned the payment of up to 142 billion shillings and another 114 billion shillings to the Harbour Group, which is owned by Basaj Jabalaba and Rhino Investments as well. At the moment, respectively, the President has the powers to appoint anyone to work for him. But MPs are saying that some key positions should be subjected to the public service guidelines. So to help us discuss this issue, we have Honorable Jack Sabiiti, Chairman of the Local Government's Accounts Committee. You're most welcome, Honorable Sabiiti.
Good evening, listeners.
We also expect to be joined by Mr. Kintu, Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President. You two will be able to contribute to this discussion. Get ready, you'll be able to call in later to ask questions or make general comments or questions. Also send text messages. What you do is type the word Spectrum, type your question or comment and send it to 7197. That is Spectrum on your phone browser. Message, question or comment with your name and address and send it to 7197. Honorable Sabiiti, could you begin by telling us, I know he should be better placed than PPS, Deputy PPS. Can you tell us the difference between State House and the Office of the President?
The government has institutions, which institutions carry out certain functions, specific functions. Traditionally, as you know, we have inherited the British system of governance. We have State House, and this is the residence of the head of state with his family, the workers who helped him to organize how he lives in that place. Originally, it was supposed to be a small unit, which unit was only to look after the welfare of the head of state. But recently, this institution, State House, has taken over the functions of the Office of the President, has taken over the functions of many other ministries, and this has resulted into a huge structure in State House. It's now like a coordinator of the entire institutions of government, and this has distorted the way government should be managed. Now, Office of the President is supposed to handle issues that concern the management of society. As you know, the president is the head of state. Therefore, his seat, his main seat, is in the office of the president. He is the head of government. He's the head of the executive. He's a fountain of honor. Now, given these functions, his seat is in the office of the president, while State House is
his residence,
where he can receive diplomats, he can receive
for ceremonies.
So there is a distinction between the office of the president and the State House.
Right.
But now there has been a fusion.
Right.
A fusion. And not until this fusion is clearly demarcated, we are likely as a country, and I want to repeat this, to suffer more, because where rules that demand that a public servant should be appointed this way or that way, while on the other hand, in the State House, the president has a leeway of appointing people himself.
Because that's his private home.
Yes, his private home. This fusion is likely to bring in incompetent people, to bring in people associated with his tribes, with his clan, with friends and whatever. And you imagine that combination to run the affairs of the country, and you disregard the other important institutions, and this is dangerous for the country.
Well, someone who should know very well, our second guest has just joined us, Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President. Would you like to tell us the line between the State House and the Office of the President?
I would like to begin by thanking you for inviting me here, and also to have the privilege and honor to debate issues of national concern with veteran statesman Mzee Sabiiti. To begin with, a lot of progress is being made in terms of fighting corruption, but within a given context. The context being that the current constitution we have that empowers Parliament, a main architect, if not the main architect, was President Museveni. Well, and this again, that constitution is and could only have taken place under a given political background. The background being the revolution that President Museveni led. I may need to remind Ugandans listening that the current parliament has 70% of the NRM, Mr. Museveni's party. So that's the context. The political will. How many presidents have ever faced PAC within our history or elsewhere? How many? That shows you the highest level of political will to fight corruption. That's why President Museveni faced PAC. How? Because there's no other president you can cite easily.
Right.
Whether in India or whatever, the Britain or whatever. So you can't question Museveni's political will to fight corruption. And the fight against corruption, successful as it seems to be, is not operating in a vacuum. There is a given political context, historical context, under which the guidance of President Museveni has been very central. Now, is there a fusion? Is it dangerous for Mr. Museveni, President Museveni, to have a private office that also assists him in the management of state? In our context, as I've said, I've just elaborated the uniqueness of our fight against corruption. That's why I've dared you or those listening to mention other leaders who have faced PAC. That uniqueness is progress. Now, if in our case, State House, which is the home, and private office operates in that manner, there's no crime against that. That is our situation. But I'm very much aware that even in other countries, like say Tanzania, there's a private office of the president. State House is a private office. Now, State House is both the home, but State House also has a private office, of which I'm working in the private office. I don't work in the president's office myself.
Yes.
As PPS, I work in the private office, and I'm not the first. Even others, Rwanga, Media Chamber, you just name them. They were all in the private office, and they were heading the private office.
Right.
Of the president. If there's a bureaucracy in the private office, I would need to remind Ugandans. I've just reading the paper I used to work for the East Africa, which states that Uganda's economy is going to grow the fastest in the world in the coming years. That's not by accident. There's a given political architecture that is supporting that. The policies, the enforcement, the monitoring. This is in the East African. I'm not talking about an FDC paper or something. The East African, one of the most prestigious. It is saying in an article that Uganda's economy is growing fastest and is going to become one of the fastest growing in the world.
One of maybe the top 15.
I'm just citing nearly verbatim. It's going to be the fastest growing. They didn't say one of the fastest growing. The fastest growing.
Well, we can look at some figures, but let's continue.
Look, that's what they wrote.
Go on.
So, East Africa has not been known to be very complimentary of us, but that's what they wrote in this week's East African. And the point I'm trying to make is that is not by accident. It's not just by God's grace.
Right.
The God I know, for sure. The God I know, only even during Moses' time, that's why he went through Moses. The God I know works through people.
Right. Yes.
So, the private office has a given function of assisting the president to manage. So the successes we have achieved, including democratization, are not by accident, and the private office has played a key role. If one or two people make mistakes, that should not mean that you throw away the baby and the bath water.
Right.
Is Parliament holy? Is Parliament entirely virtuous?
Go on.
The current Parliament.
Go on.
Is it entirely virtuous?
I'm not judge of that, but
I'm certain it's not.
All right. Honorable Sabiiti, you in Parliament, you're not virtuous, you're not holy, but you start to throw stones. You live in a glass house. Why do you attack the State House?
That may be virtuous, but Parliament is not entirely virtuous.
No. Let's not take that direction.
Go on.
Because you started by asking us the difference between State House and the President's office. What is being done in State House?
Yes.
Could equally be done in the office of the President.
Yes.
And if you look at the functions of the office of the President, what is being done in the State House is what has been shifted to State House.
And you're saying there's a danger because State House is a private home. The President can bring anyone he wants.
This is it.
Office of the President is more sophisticated.
This is it. We are not saying that there are only thieves in State House.
Yes.
In nearly every sector. And as I started, I said, the President is head of state. He's supposed to fight corruption everywhere, not only in State House, in every ministry. Right? He's the head of government, head of executive. He's the commander-in-chief. He's the fountain of honor. Now, let's not just try to protect State House. We are saying you manage if you ever went school of management, which I did. If you went in a school of management, you must demarcate a function that suits a given area and another area.
So you're saying it's a mistake to fuse the...
But you cannot fuse the two functions. In fact...
But he says the economy is growing because of that.
In fact, this has retarded... Excuse me, this has retarded development.
Yeah. But he says the economy is growing very fast.
Well, that's his statement. Right? We got independence in...
50 years ago almost.
About 50 years ago. Kenya got it near the same time. Tanzania got it the same years, Now the fact is that we have plunged a bit with maybe 10% increase. Others have plunged even 30%. So what we are saying is let's put our house in order. Let's have institutions. Let's have the right people to do the jobs. Right? Let's plug those holes which have caused the draining away of our resources to personal gain.
Let's get that very clearly. We know you're talking about the caliber of staff. A 27-year-old man today appeared before PAC, that's the Public Accounts Committee, and he identified himself as a presidential assistant on economic affairs. He's 27 years old. MPs think he's too young and inexperienced to hold that position. They say that recruitment of staff at State House and the President's office must be streamlined. They have said the President has powers to appoint people in State House, but some of these jobs should be passed through the Public Service Commission. Committee.
This is why I'm saying that such a function
Yes.
should
They
be...
should not give it to a 27-year-old.
Yeah, but even that alone should be in the office of the president,
Not in the State House.
not in the State House.
Mr. Kintu Nyago.
Look,
When he came to office, apparently was 24 years old. Presidential assistant on economic affairs.
I'm sure he had the qualifications.
Go on.
Experience is one qualification, but not the only qualification. And look, the correcting he's talking about is already going on. It's an ongoing process. It's work in progress. And it's not correcting by coercion. The president himself did mention some of these people, some of these anomalies. And the fact that Park went to Parliament, the president could have said no.
State House, yes.
He could have said no. He has the caucus. I mean, he has the caucus behind him. He could have said no. And by the way, the fact that, for the first time in history,
Right.
that the opposition heads the accounting committees.
Yes.
It is because of President Museveni's...
No, please.
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 I didn't speak
Don't
when
distort the
I'm
facts
not.
of history.
I didn't speak when you were speaking. You will talk when you
Go
go
on.
on to just. Because Andrew Bullet was... You think Park had just begun now? Andrew Bullet was Park.
In other countries?
Look, I'm talking about Uganda.
Go on. Let him have his say.
Andrew Bullet was Park. You think Park is a creation of the NRM government? But that Park was headed by the UPC.
It was headed by the UPC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both in the 60s and in the 80s.
Right now, by procedure, it has to be headed by an opposition person.
Because of a reform accepted by President Museveni and the NRM, you must bear in mind that the NRM has always dominated Parliament. They could have said no.
Right.
Like the UPC said no.
Right. So there's a will. I mean, you made it very clear.
Without doubt.
You're making very big statements.
Without
You're
doubt.
saying it's not correction by coercion. You're
Yes.
you're saying the state
There's
has got
consent.
entirely clean, but there's a will.
There's consent
Right.
and collaboration and
Corruption.
political will. Yes.
Very interesting statements coming from that side. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. Is State House and the Office of the President clean from corruption? Our guests, Honorable Jack Sabiiti, a veteran politician, chairman right now of the Local Government Accounts Committee in Parliament, and Mr. Nyago, deputy principal.
And
private
is that
secretary.
because of that reform? As a member of the opposition heading that local government accounts
Excuse
committee, is there because of that?
Don't push it in that direction. Right?
That's a fact.
I am a Ugandan. Okay? I am a Ugandan.
So
Highly educated.
Ugandans here in the
Excuse me.
60s and go to the 80s.
Excuse me. By then I had not competed for Parliament. Right? In the 60s, I was a young kid. Right? So I am the chairman of PAC, not because of President Museveni. I am a member of Parliament, not because of President Museveni. I am in these institutions because I'm Ugandan. And I know the Constitution gives me that opportunity to serve. Right? And when we start saying Museveni doing this, Museveni, yes.
But let's give some credit here. The man has said, very broad statement, he says there is correction going on. Would you not like to give credit for that? He said
25 years, right? You're not building institutions, right? You're not. You are destroying those strong institutions which were in existence.
Go on.
Right?
Go on.
You are creating amorphous institutions
Like
such
which
as
ones?
in the State House. Right? That's why you just pick a young man, right? Inexperienced, to advise the president on the crucial issues.
economic affairs.
Yes.
But he says the economy is growing. Maybe this young man has an input there.
In what direction? That's disputable. In what direction? Somebody could have written an article. I can also write an article.
All right,
Let's could have written articles.
Let's
and
talk
use that one as a basis of supporting the regime. That is, well, let me not use the other word to use.
All right, let's talk about something else. We have had reports emerging that indicating that there are a lot of forgeries and corruption scandals linked to officers in State House. Some people promise others jobs because they say they are coming from State House. Why do we get this kind of flood?
I don't know about the flood, but the word forgery wasn't invented today or yesterday. I'm sure there are many forgeries emerging from Parliament and other institutions. So, I work in State House, and I don't see the flood you're talking about. But yes, there's forgery.
You know, people expect it to be clean, the fountain of honor, but we see these spots. They disappoint us a lot.
Look, Museveni is not reigning in heaven. He's not reigning in heaven.
Yes,
In
where there are
case
angels.
we're a believer.
Yes.
Even in heaven, Lucifer had to be chased out.
And was thrown out at full speed.
Yes, even in heaven.
He lives with
In case
us
you're a
now
believer.
here. Yes.
Lucifer was chased out from heaven. But Museveni has never claimed and does not aspire to be a leader in heaven. Ugandans are not angels. It is Uganda. You think it's foreigners who are, in case they are forgeries, you think it's foreigners? Is it, say, people from Mauritania, or they are Ugandans? And those are the people Mr. Museveni is leading, and he has led them very well. And I should add this, and I would like to base my last shilling. Most Ugandans, most likely 99% of them, are good people, law-abiding. But there's a tiny elite of, people around, some no-gooders who are, but most Ugandans.
That's the point.
99.9%, I'm certain,
that
are law-abiding and don't engage in this kind of activity. But there are some few. But in light of those few, it's not as if nothing has been done. Let's talk about institution building. Mr. Sabiiti has talked about. Many institutions have been put in place to counter exactly that. Let's take the media. The media, like Radio 1 now.
Yes.
Do you think Ugandans were less clever in the 50s or 60s to only have Radio Uganda? But now, because of the political will of this government, Anna Museveni,
The fundamental change.
very fundamental.
Yes.
Nearly every other outpost has a radio station in Uganda. We have about 500 FMs in Uganda.
And even districts are also coming.
And that's the democratic
sign of prosperity.
Yeah, for sure. And against that background, the freedom of the press in itself is an institution through which to fight corruption.
Right.
But then, we have talked about the formation. Let me remind Ugandans, the parliament we have is qualitatively better than the parliaments we've had in the past. There is the committee system, which never existed in the past. The committee system, like the committee Mr. Sabiiti is heading, that's a reform under this government. A government under which has been dominating that parliament, it would have said no.
Right.
For example, Kenya, the one has been referring, just formed their committee systems about 2-3 years ago. Uganda formed its committee system in the 90s.
Right.
You see, the committee systems enables accountability. More fundamentally, committees that are accounting committees in parliament, this government decided that those committees should be headed by the opposition.
Right.
Not that the opposition dominates parliament.
because of pressure.
No, because of political will.
Right.
Because of
And now, they are minute. Some of these parties have got one MP.
Yes.
But they are heading.
Right.
You see?
All right.
Now, there are other institutions, like the Inspectorate of Government.
Right.
It has just been formed. I mean, Uganda has had independence for 50 years. But the Inspectorate of Government is an NRM creation.
You made it very clear.
And it was even strengthened in the 95 Constitution, not weakened.
Right. After Waswarule left, here there was a controversial deputy IG. When Rosindana was head there, he was very, very...
Well, but
this is Spectrum on Radio 1. We'll be back. This is tuned.
Just like an uncut diamond is brought to life by unmatched skill and dedication, only our brewmaster holds the secret to crafting a crystal malt lager. Under the exacting international standards at Now Breweries, he uses only the finest, most carefully selected grains of roasted crystal malt and sets in motion the delicate process of releasing their full roast. The result is a world-class beer with a fresher aroma, a richer golden color, and a maltier taste.
Nile Gold Crystal Malt Lager. Beyond an ordinary malt.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Let the sunlight in.
Good morning, sunshine of my life. You look happy today.
I am. I came in here and I saw there was a whole pile of washing to do.
But I thought you didn't like doing the washing.
No, I love it. Anything else you need washed?
Sunlight 2-in-1 with added fabric softener smells so good you want to use it again and again.
Let the sunlight in.
Sunlight 2-in-1. Sunlight clean, sunlight fresh.
Sunlight in. Happiness is all around. Let the sunlight in.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight is State House and the Office of the President claimed from corruption. Our guests tonight, Honorable Jack Sabiiti, Chairman of the Local Government Accounts Committee, and Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President. You'll be able to call in. I'll read out the numbers when that time comes. You can also send your questions via text. What you do is type the word Spectrum in your phone browser. Leave a space, type your question, message, or comment, and send it to 7197. That is Spectrum, message, question, or comment. Send to 7197. Honorable Sabiiti, while meeting the Public Accounts Committee again yesterday, the President indicated that he's surrounded by people who write letters and ask him to sign them without scrutinizing them. It was later discovered that before the President signs any letter, the PPS must proofread the letter. Now, MPs today concluded that State House could be full of unscrupulous individuals who are misleading the President, since reports have surfaced that some directives are forged, including his signature. How do you explain that cloud?
This again is connected with the functions of State House and the functions of the Office of the President. The PPS is supposed to be a well-trained person.
Go on.
With experience.
Yes.
With experience.
Go on, sir.
Who has had skills in the management of public affairs. A man who can advise the President.
Or woman.
A man or woman who is very, very articulate, who has some knowledge about, intrinsic management of public affairs.
Yes.
Now, for a letter from State House to move out, such a letter talking about billions of money,
it has to go through.
and the PPS does not know, or if he knows, he ignores it, then there is a question. That's why we are saying State House should not be involved in the management of public funds. They should be having a small vote under their docket.
So what a smaller State House?
Yes. They should be having a small budget to feed the President, to feed whatever, and do
even as visitors when they come.
And whatever.
Sit in the tents.
But to move the functions of the presidency from the office of the President,
there should be
there are technical people,
yes,
right, who have been trained, experienced, from down assistant secretary to permanent secretaries, right?
Yes.
Really,
there should be a
to shift this function,
yes,
to State House, to pick a boy or a girl
24 years old
from somewhere, come and work with me.
He might be a prodigy
because you are my relative, because maybe you are my kadogo, or because you are whatever, and you find yourself shouldering such huge responsibility. Right? That is an error.
Well, the kadogos are older than 24 years. We no longer have kadogos in that age group. They are all
kadogo, in the sense that these are young boys and girls, right? That are picked. So it's not be groomed for other big things. But you see, in the institution of public service,
yes,
we have checks, right? Whereby before you become what you are tested, right?
Yes.
You are tested for a certain time to know that you have capacity in the finance management.
Like you are advising the President on the economy.
Yes. You don't just pick someone from the blue.
They might test you for 10 years maybe.
And you see, and this is what
they could have tested him from age 40.
That's what has caused the problem. Maybe what my brother is saying, let's assume Uganda's graph in economic development is pushing.
Yes,
pushing on
which
well,
it is.
Pushing on well.
7%.
But if we were more organized with the right structures,
it would be double digits.
It would be even double digits.
The growth would be double digits, and inflation would not be double digits.
Yes.
When you're defining status, and I'm coming to Mr. Nyago, you're saying the President should sleep in a small State House, smaller in structures and everything, wake up in the morning, drive to the President's office, and then at 5 o'clock goes back home like the rest of us.
Why not?
Mr. Nyago, talk to us about that. You're not a good gatekeeper. These letters pass your gate, and you lose billions in the end.
To begin with, the good thing is things are in the domain of investigation and about institutions. In a parliament that has been institutionalized to do its job, it has never been as better funded as it is now.
We need more funding for parliament.
You see, I was speaking to an MP who served in the Obote 2, and he said I used to be paid peanuts. Peanuts.
Yes.
not the 20 million they are getting a month now.
Between 14 and 20, depending on where you come from.
How much was the door? How much was the door then?
But the point I'm making is, Mr. Sabiiti,
let's listen to the gentleman.
He's entirely
throw light on some.
I mean, he's a statesman, he's a senior person, he's entirely entitled to his views, and I guess when his party comes to power, they would.
You believe they'll one day come?
You would see the difference.
Miracle. I'm not a prophet.
Go on, sir.
But so I guess when his party comes to power, his vision would be that, and then. But now, under this government, I would like to emphasize again that yes, mistakes have been made. We are human. To err is human. But under the framework we have now, with a private office that is functional and assisting the president to be effective, progress is being made.
Right. That's a very big statement.
And I need to remind Ugandans.
Yes.
That the East African of this week.
Yes.
Mentioned, you bite. The East African says.
I have it already.
Not you, I'm talking about the listeners. Uganda's economy is going to be the fastest growing in the world.
One of the fastest. They are faster growing.
No.
I'm saying you.
No.
At one time was 30%.
I'm citing the
China, between 7 and 9%.
The East Africa. So, and that is not by fluke.
So we should.
And the private office plays a critical role. A key role. It's not perfect,
yes.
and we are happy that these things are being tightened through the institutions that this government has created.
So this 27-year-old young man might find another job.
Well, I'm not due process.
Well, it doesn't seem. No. 27 years old.
No.
You might be a prodigy.
No. Let due process take place. I mean, you cannot be a judge, prosecutor, executioner, all in one. Let due process take place.
Public service
and
recruitment.
No, please. Let's.
Yeah, that's the due process.
Due process finding out any crime to be.
Might get some people went to have.
But that said, institutions are in place. And yes, I mean we should support the process of cleansing.
All right, let's talk about the letters that come through your gates, sir. The president told the committee that some of these letters are forged at some stage. Yesterday he seemed to deny it, but how do they get out there? And they don't have the authority of the president.
Mr.
And the principal private secretary.
Yeah, true. Mr. Edmond Kizito.
Yes, sir.
About a month ago, on the TV screen, I saw a member or members of parliament with letters which in Uganda we call Kiro Kitwaro Munaku, unsigned, with no address, being peddled in the August House. You know?
Talk about State House.
Go on.
Please,
let's hear him out.
Kiro Kitwaro Munaku. And allowed by those who head parliament.
You mean anonymous letters?
I don't even know how to term them.
No head or tail.
I think that's a deviation.
Let's hear terminology in Uganda.
The best terminology is in Uganda.
Yes. The letter that it's got head, no tail. Go on.
No head. I'm in parliament. Yes. I'm allowed by parliament to be peddled. You know? So these things I can't talk about what I do. Let's
so how do you get Chirochi coming from the State House and signing out 140 billion shillings?
The difference is that these letters are forgeries who are claimed to be forgeries because, I mean, the police must investigate and the judge must pass verdict. But at least they are headed, unlike the Kiroshi Warumunaku.
Well, but investigating a forged signature involves thumbprints and ink and so on and so. Are they going to do that too?
We have got cabinet policemen and parliament is also going to do it.
Honorable Sabiiti, how do we get out of this? 140 billion shillings. Yesterday the president said it's much more than that. How do we get out of that kind of cycle?
And lastly, 14 billions in whatever bank in Malta, whatever billion of euros. So,
no, I think I was happy that when the Public Accounts Committee met the president, that this time he impressed me.
The old man.
He impressed me because he came out clearly to say what some of us who grew up seeing him, who worked with him, who admired him, we found
Who might still admire his
him.
secret.
We found him trying to knock at the point he has always knocked at, and by saying the funds fraudulently taken must be paid, that his ministers take responsibility. That's Makubuya and Bumba. But by saying that sacking ministers, let's be patient, let's be fair, this connotes something.
What does it connote? Talk to us.
This connotes something. You are the head of state.
Yes, and you can fire them.
The head of executive.
Yes, and you've even carried out investigations.
You have carried out investigations.
And you don't want to fire them.
Why not fire them? You know, once you are given to shoulder state responsibilities ahead of state,
you should.
And I remember when we go deeper into the Constitution.
Yes.
If you do things that undermines the office of the president,
you are in hot soup.
You are in hot soup. And therefore,
yes,
I am asking the president
to fire those officials.
The way he stated, the way I read what he stated in State House.
If he's listening in right now, he should fire them.
Yes. He should move fast, fire most of those ministers who are not doing
Mr. Chief, shall we see a letter in half an hour's time firing these people?
Look, that just goes to show you that Mr. Museveni is a very fair man.
Fair when we are losing money?
Let's hear him out.
Mr. Sabiiti.
No, but this is important. This is a very important issue.
Mr. Sabiiti, could I
say him out?
You are fair because I am being fair
please,
and patient
as a Democrat.
As billions of money are being spent.
To be a Democrat.
He's an angry man because of a billion.
Give me my chance to speak.
He's angry because of the billions being siphoned. Go.
No, I mean being angry will not solve the because so Honorable Sabiiti, sir, and fellow Ugandans, it just shows you how fair our leader President Museveni is. Because look, the people being talked about are suspects. I do remember when I was a very young child, during Amin's time, the fight against corruption is not new. Even Amin tried to fight it.
Oh.
And he put there a committee headed by Lieutenant Colonel Juma Butarika.
Yes.
Juma Ali. His other name was Butarika.
A nickname.
This guy was not even literate. He was, and it was claimed he had a
mental situation.
Yes, but he was the one who was made to head that committee.
Yes.
And Butarika, if he didn't like your face,
he said you are corrupt.
Look, Butarika was the judge, the prosecutor, the executioner, everything. You know, and within 2, 3, 5 minutes,
there was no corruption.
He would, the kangaroo court, his committee, Butarika's committee was the kangaroo court,
yes.
And they would say, firing squad. So, is that the kind of thing?
They do it in China as well, I think.
Well, I won't comment. I think China has got a more elaborate process. But Butarika's committee under Amin, it's even in some commission of inquiry about but the point is Butarika's committee under Amin. That's how they
used to do it.
Within 5 and then Amin would, oh for sure, that's plenty of it. And Amin would pride himself by saying his government is operating on supersonic speed.
Yes.
No, the moment you are suspected, you're executed.
And
you're executed.
He fights
that is not how the NRM government that came to power to introduce the rule of law in Uganda
does not operate at that
It does not operate at that. Due process takes time.
All right, let's take 5 years. And we know there's a minister who was accused of stealing a mask. The process wasn't complete and she was asked to leave. Anyhow, we have to go to hear from you, dear listeners. Our numbers on Spectrum tonight: 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0312 261 390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Don't be bashful, please talk to us. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Well. Looks like there's trouble with those lines. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Maybe there is a fault with those lines. It shouldn't have happened the whole days. Well, we still hope to hear from you, but you can send a message via text. Spectrum, leave a message, leave a question, a space, type the message, question or comment and send it to 7197. Honorable Sabiiti, you want us to go back to the supersonic speed of firing squad?
Yeah. Now look at this. The president says Dura or the management of that particular group got $16 million. But they should have got $500,000. You go to Burundi, you go for a guerrilla war.
Yes.
You fight a war. After fighting a war,
you get some venture finance.
You come back and you take over power.
You pay the debts.
And you want to pay debts.
Who did you want to pay those debts? The government that was thrown out of one.
You know, this encourages, the younger generation. It encourages the adventurists. It encourages people of, who have no respect for, for good governance, right?
To try it out. Like business. Borrow some money.
Yes. Go out tomorrow when I'm in the State House. I will pay back. And this is dangerous for the country. In fact, I want to state this.
Yes.
This is contrary to our constitution, number one.
Yes.
Contrary to our financial regulations. And I can bet this is an issue which PAC should have concentrated on more than.
But we paid Tanzania when they chased.
Oh yes, this is one of them. This is one of them.
We should have paid Tanzania. It almost caused us trouble. We didn't want to pay.
Yes. This is one of them. You need to go to the world and come back.
What I know.
No.
What I know, especially if.
What about other groups which fought?
Mr. Edmond.
Right?
So they should claim. Edmond, what I know, especially if we are to believe the WikiLeaks, many of our senior leaders in opposition fraternize a lot.
With the rebels?
No. With
government.
Say the American embassy.
Yes.
In the opposition, what about government?
Let's hear him out. Let's develop his point.
I mean, that's what the WikiLeaks tells us, and they throw out their hearts when they are having these cocktails with this. Now, America, the United States, after removing Saddam Hussein, we may not go into the details of the justification of that.
Yes.
We are very much aware. I mean, it's public knowledge that the Americans have taken up all the tenders of reconstructing Iraq
because it used to be rebuilt.
And one of the companies headed by
WikiLeaks.
No. WikiLeaks. And one of the companies that is playing a very key role called Halliburton. That's a company in which Dick Cheney used to be the CEO,
right?
The former vice president of America. This is not WikiLeaks. This is a public knowledge.
Right.
Halliburton is a very huge American, giving mineral water, building whatever. Halliburton. Mr. Dick Cheney was the vice chair. So even you could even say influence peddling. But the point is, it is not unusual for people who participate in these kinds of ventures of, say, national liberation or whatever, to have some form of compensation or whatever.
Our lines are right now on.
Like the Americans have done, and
Spectrum, hello?
WikiLeaks tells us you fraternize a lot with them.
Hello? Well, the lines are still rebelling against the people who they should be listening. Honorable Sabiiti, the president says he gives an open directive, a blank check. He says, pay this man who lives in hides and skin. He goes to the central bank. He writes his figures. How do you explain that, and how can we get out of it?
Well, that's unconstitutional. That's unconstitutional.
It's supposed to guide. He says, this man, compensate him. You gave him a market, you didn't give it to him in the end. You took it away. Compensate him.
No, but it's unconstitutional. There are procedures. There are procedures, right? But if he says, please look at this case, and he gives an institution, right? An institution should look at it. Of course, the president also, has to, to ask his staff, his technical staff, help me on this. If I say help me on this, here the president is right. If I say help me on this, and here you rush, you want to take advantage, right? And you take decisions, and you don't follow the rules and regulations. You don't follow the laws.
So what is the loophole there?
Right?
Where is the loophole?
This is where, when I see these ministers, still hanging around there.
Well, but you also mentioned the governor of the central bank.
Right?
He said he should not have paid that money.
Obviously, the governor, Bank of Uganda, if you look at the law, if you look at the constitution,
yes,
the Bank of Uganda is not supposed to be directed by any person or authority.
Yes.
Right?
It's semi-independent.
Right? So here, the president, if the president directs the governor, Bank of Uganda, to get money, the governor gives him money, and the president takes the money, both are guilty.
Because the governor cannot be fired according to the constitution. You cannot fire the central bank governor.
Well, there is a procedure. There is a procedure laid out in the constitution.
Not arbitrary. You can.
Right? Yes, there is a procedure.
Yes.
Which must be followed. But once the constitution has directed that the governor, the Bank of Uganda, cannot be directed, right, by a person or authority, and the president or a minister or a commander,
yes,
goes to the Bank of Uganda and just takes out money, it's criminal.
How do you explain that?
It's criminal.
Let's talk about Tumusiime Mutebi. He's a man who's very well respected. He's served governments, even before Museveni came to power. And he risen through the ranks, the Minister of Finance, risen through the ranks, became Secretary to the Treasury. Right now, government is respected. How do you explain that?
Tumusiime Mutebi, I know him very well. He's a man of integrity.
Yes.
He's a man of brains.
And a man of conviction as well.
We studied together in the same class.
Right.
So I respect him very, very highly.
He's also
listen to this, as my brother was saying. He's the man who went to the bush and fought a war. He had a vision. He comes here. And now he directs to Tumusiime Mutebi. I want this. Right? You can see. Well, here Park should have gone. I wish I was chairman of Park. I would have gone much deeper into this matter.
Where would have you?
Right?
Yes,
I would have gone much deeper into this matter. Let's go to a national reserve, right? And just pick money. You can't. The Consolidated Fund account has procedures in the law and in the Constitution.
Yes.
How to access that money. The president has no powers whatsoever.
Mr. Nyago.
I guess
and the institutions are ready to help the president access that money.
I guess
but not direct.
I guess senior citizen Honorable Jack Sabiiti is talking about the issue of the jets when the president, I think.
Or even the Basaja Balamani.
No, we are talking about the jets. Security, what, this. No, we are talking about the managed society.
Yes, I can only comment.
Let's talk about management of society.
Mao Zedong said one has to only comment when he has investigated. I'm only conversant with the issue of the jets because the issue is the same. The issues are the same in the sense that the president, had a hand in the jets, whatever. It was Uganda is the kind of the development I've talked about.
It has to be protected.
And it cannot operate in a vacuum.
No. We can't take that direction.
When you're talking about
you are protected.
The development the East Africa is talking about.
We needed jets.
For Uganda to have the fastest growing economy in the world.
We needed some jets as well.
No. This has to be protected.
Who says no?
Does not operate. Uganda is not Mauritius.
Who says no? Who says no?
Hello? It seems
who says no? Let's follow the right procedure. Give the money
against that background. Against that background.
Yes.
I think Mr. Mutebi acted in good faith for the national security of this country.
How about the procedures?
Well, I think they had to be. There was a problem. I mean, we need that just when people are going to attack Uganda, and then you need to go into an 6 months debating the thing in whatever. Even in America, you don't do. When Obama or Bush opted to attack Afghanistan and Iraq, he didn't go through Congress because national security, according to him, was at stake. That's the same thing with President Museveni. That's
national security was at stake 1 year ago. We bought jets.
Exactly. That's what we bought those jets.
Well, we have to go. Our time is very, very close to the end. How do you think this issue should be ironed out? Saida Bumba, you think she should be fired? How about the central bank governor?
First, I advise that the president should adhere to the Constitution, which Constitution he swore to protect. He must respect the oath of allegiance, the presidential oath. If he respects those, and those are the ones that are cited in the other article, in case somebody wants even to move a vote of, no confidence or no, right?
Yes.
I expect him, unlike those people who are uneducated, who ruled this country, to adhere to the Constitution and to make sure that when he's going to get funding, He goes through the normal procedure. Parliament will give him money. We have given him money wherever he wants money, right? But the not direct to go at the back of Parliament, which institution is authorized to give him that money? To go at the back of the Auditor General without a warrant, you go and get money from the central bank. That is illegal, unacceptable, and I don't expect my president, the president of this country, right, to behave that way when the institution through which he can access that money.
Well, Honorable Mzee Sabiiti's advice is well taken. Fortunately,
I hope you advise the president.
Oh, that's my job. Fortunately, President Museveni is the supreme architect of our constitution and protector of our constitution, and he abides constitutionalism. It is the constitution we're enjoying now in Uganda. Mr. Museveni has a very, very important role he has played and is still playing in its being in existence.
Then let him respect it.
He's doing so.
Thank you very much indeed, dear. But first of all, we have some messages. Mr. Damba from Kasanje says, he says, Mr. Kintu sounds rather casual. Is he prepared for the debate? Lavish spending by the state is another form of corruption. Another one came in from, well, unsigned. Mr. Sabiiti, I think State House is right to meddle in the running of some institutions because the technocrats are messing them up, e.g. the rot in the health sector. Thank you very much indeed for those comments. We apologize our lines were not able to let you go through tonight, but I thank you for listening, and I must thank our dear guests, Honorable Jack Sabiiti, Chairman of the Local Governments Accounts Committee, and Mr. Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President, who are asking the question tonight: is State House and the Office of the President clean from corruption? Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Kizito. Spectrum will return tomorrow. Up next, though, is the news in English.
Excuse me.